there, I'm Crystal Kirkendall, editor at thejournal.com, the nation's oldest publication covering K-12 education technology, and this is THE Journal Insider Podcast. Welcome to the show. This past March, when THE Journal first reported on the public launch of the Apple Learning Coach program, I visited with several instructional coaches and EdTech specialists who had participated in the pilot program last year. The program is now accepting applications through November 16, 2022 for its fourth cohort, and any U.S. educator with the capacity to coach K-12 teachers can apply or learn more at apple.co/ALC-apply. For this episode of THE Journal Insider Podcast, we will hear those educators who share fantastic insights about how the Apple Learning Coach program has been a change agent at their schools. Maranda Ralph and Jessica Keller from Berkeley County School District in West Virginia start off this episode sharing how they, as coaches and technology integration specialists, benefited from the Apple Learning Coach program and the evidence of its impact that they've seen as the coaching methods and the iPad apps they learned about during the ALC program have trickled down into classrooms and throughout their district's teaching staff. Next, you'll hear me ask the Director of Education Technology at the Los Lunas, New Mexico School District, Bill Hayes, about how his participation in the ALC pilot program led to the creation of a student film festival that was a huge hit with the community as well as with the student body. Let's dive into my chat with Maranda and Jessica, telling us about their experiences completing the Apple Learning Coach program.
So for me, looking at it, I see things from the district level, not really school-based, but much from, kind of the top down. So for me, going through this process has really given me some knowledge and strength to be able to help coach our coaches and, in their role to support teachers. So it's been good to have a framework. It's been good to have guidance and support to just really get our hands dirty and jump in and help wherever and however we can. Sometimes it's a big project, sometimes it's something very small. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're looking at technology integration. It really just depends on the student learning and what you want that learning outcome to be. So that's kind of my view looking at it from the top down.
For me, what I was able to get from the program, really a few things. One, just being that coaching model and the kind of the way to relate with the different teachers I'm going to be working with, seeing how to interact with their different styles or their different comfort levels has been really important and helpful to me. Also, just kind of like that framework of how to build up my coaching session with them. And then for me, even just integrating the tools, so more use with the tools there and how to better use them with the teachers and integrate them in the classrooms.
Tell me a little bit about an example of something that you learned from this program and that is actionable for someone else.
So part of the Apple Learning Coach program, they're not only just teaching you like tips and tricks, but they are showing you all those features and tools that they have available. It's all about the learning. And so how can we enhance that student experience and that learning for them? And one of the kind of big takeaways for me, I find that when I'm especially working with our younger learners, kindergarten, first grade, I find using clips a lot is really helpful. So clips is like short little video making activities where they can combine multiple videos together for a variety of lessons. So one that we recently just did was on math, and they've been working on 10 more, 10 less. And so they had a mystery number, and they created a clips video saying that their mystery number was 10 more than 54. And then another student was solving that problem. So that had the collaboration. They were learning from each other, and then they would reveal the mystery number, and the student who was solving could see if it was correct. So that's just one of many ways to use clips, but that in the classroom, and it's building that confidence with the students. And it's interesting to see, like, we could have done a worksheet of, numbers are written down and they have to put which one is 10 more or 10 less. And but the confidence that the students are gaining, it's interesting to see, like, they work so much harder. They know that they're going to share that with their peers, and so they want to make sure that they have everything correct, and they've done a really good job. And so the work that we're receiving and the output from the students is enhanced, and the engagement is there. So it's really exciting to kind of see that, even just one, and that's a native Apple app with just one piece of it. Is kind of really cool to see that change happening in the classrooms.
I think something for us too, I just want to throw this in there. Our district, our mission, one of the lines in our mission is multiple pathways to success. And that's been something for us that we have really just tried to hang our hat on that statement and really take that to the next level and give our students a voice and a choice in what they're doing. Let them choose the way that they demonstrate their learning. Give them the tools to do that. If they want to make a song, they can use GarageBand. If they feel like they're a great artist and they want to sketch something, or they feel that they're very talented in Pages or in Keynote, it's not about how they get there. It's about the fact that they do get there. They reach that point of creation. That's something else with our group that we talk a lot about is consumption versus creation. And when you look at the iPad, that accessibility just allows them to create in a way that honestly with our group, we haven't found something that's better. We really think that we're hitting a home run when we look what the iPad can do for our kids and in their classroom. So it's also given us not just for student engagement, but it's also engaged us as the professionals on our side of the table. We have kind of taken there's a new pep in our step, I guess we could say, just a newfound energy to say, hey, we can do this. Even if it's 5 teachers, even if it's one classroom, that difference, that the fire has been lit, and we hope to, continue to spread that with not just our buildings, but across our district, with all of our schools.
There's been so much talk about the education system's broken, teachers have too much to do, they don't get paid enough, they work too many hours, all that. I think that's all well established, that all that's true. And it's also probably well established that there needs to be a big change, right? Like a sea change in how classrooms work and how technology is used in classrooms. Is something like this one of the answers? And how do you keep going in this direction?
I think for us as a district, one of the first things that we are putting that best foot forward, we added TISs to our K-5 buildings. This is the first big step for us. All of our secondary schools have their own TIS, the technology integration specialist. But now, in previous years, we've never had that position at our K-5 schools. We now added 10 to service all of those schools. So some of them are shared. All of them are shared, actually, except one. So they'll spend, maybe 3 days in one building, 2 days in another building. Sarah is between 2 schools. John is between 3 schools. But even though John maybe is only at one school one day or Sarah's at one school 2 days, the impact that they're able to have is tremendous. So for me, continuing to grow this support, we talk a lot about teacher burnout and there being so much on their plate, and people like John and Sarah and Jess. We also have another colleague that isn't with us today. He has been through this program too, and his name's Derek. These guys are out there supporting as much as they can and taking things off of the teacher's plate to try to help them in the long run. They're trying to make their life easier. Hey, here's how we could do this, or hey, here's how we could do that. Gaining that engagement, gaining that critical thinking, problem solving, all of those skills that are needed for the workplace, even though they deal with some kids in kindergarten, first, second grade. That's the time when those skills start to develop. And I think what they're doing is definitely, that would be a big shift in education if we could start to build that creativity, the communication, the collaboration, the big C's of technology. And I definitely think our district, we took a great first step in adding these TISs to those K-5 schools.
I would agree with Miranda in saying that. And I do think that something like this program, getting our our TIS trains, but even getting teachers involved in this program, getting them that exposure and that experience, I think could make a big impact. One thing that I have been seeing, which in the past maybe we saw a lot of like, let's teach how to use this tech tool, and instead of let's learn how to count by twos today while using technology, like infusing it in. We've been seeing some more of that, the technology laced seamlessly in instruction. It's not a separate thing, and we don't want it to be. We want it to be like using how the people use their textbook, that integration to just flow. And so we are seeing that start to happen.
If you were talking to a group of educators and friends about the program and sort of helping them have realistic expectations about the Apple Learning Coach program, what would you tell them?
It's not something that you can expect when you're being this transformative and making the changes, that we hope to see. I am one that's really bad when I do it. I'm like, I want that instant gratification. I want to see the change immediately. And a lot of times working with these guys, they've had to reel me back in and say, "Hey, we took this first step. That's a great first step that's going to lead to 15 other steps." So just recognizing that it does take time. It is a process. Change doesn't typically happen overnight. So be patient with the process. I hate to use the cliche, trust the process, but that's it. You really have to lay the foundation. And that's what I feel like Apple Learning Coach for me personally has laid the foundation for me to be a better leader to the group that I work with every day, which are artists. So that's what in my personal view, that's where I'm very thankful, is just for that foundation that's been laid.
As far as the program that itself, I think that just noting that, it's a combination of some virtual collaborative workshops as well as self-paced learning, but that it gives you a chance to have like real world application. And so you can practice better with that, and having that, ability to talk to people who have been in that same situation as you that maybe aren't at your district necessarily. So you get that network as well. It's giving you a nice network base to work with. I have been to a lot of trainings and through a lot of different PD, and I'll honestly say that I do think this is one of the most meaningful PDs that I've been through. I feel like I got the most out of it.
I think the other thing to remind people, don't be intimidated. I think sometimes when you hear this program and you hear the amount of time and you hear, Apple Learning Coach, there were all walks of individuals, skill level, that completed this journey with us. And we learned that very quickly when we were in our unit 3 and unit 4, when you actually are virtually face to face with others. We got to, you get to meet some of these people, and some folks, their proficiency level was extremely high, and others was maybe middle of the road. And that's the intent of this course. It really meets you where you are as a learner and pushes you to go even deeper and to learn even more. So that's probably my biggest takeaway, is don't be intimidated. It's doable. We all did it. And again, we all are full-time employees. It's not something that, you need to take off time from work to do or anything like that. But it is something not to be intimidated. And I think when you hear it, you get maybe some folks may be a little intimidated, and they definitely should not be.
I want to say thank you again to Jessica and Miranda, and also to John and Sarah. They sat in on that conversation, also had some great insights that informed our reporting on thejournal.com. I appreciate them allowing me to use parts of that interview back from March in this podcast, because I think that it is great information. So next, we're going to visit with Bill Hayes from the Los Lunas, New Mexico School District. Mr. Hayes, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So tell me a little bit about your background and how long you've been with the district and your background as an educator.
Okay, perfect. So I have been in education for 10 years. I spent a couple years teaching mathematics in a different school district, and I moved here, and I taught computer apps and computer science for 4 years before eventually moving on to becoming an administrator at a school site for 3 years. And then this past year, I took the position of a director of educational technology here for Los Lunas Schools. So I've been in this current position for about exactly 1 year now.
Okay. And so when did the program start and about how long did it take you to complete it?
It started at the end of May, and I completed it in July. So
Oh,
roughly 2 months.
so once you finished the program, tell me what happened then.
Um, so I finished the program, and I really learned a lot that with this program. It was great because it was tailored towards the needs of the individual, which I really appreciated. So in my position, I'm a director, so I'm not necessarily a coach. So that's one thing I kind of went into, and I was like, well, it'd be great because we do have digital learning coaches in the district, and I would like for them to kind of embark in this, and I would like to know what it is that their coaching cycle is going to look like. But the great thing about the program is that it didn't really matter that I wasn't a coach because I had kind of the freedom to think about how I can implement things in my position, given the framework that they kind of operated with the program.
Can you give me an example what you mean where it still you felt like it still spoke to you even though you were not a coach of other educators?
Yeah, so it really spoke to me on how I can coach my coaches for one, and then how I can utilize the coaches in the district to formulate a coaching cycle that's meaningful, um, such as like the inquire, plan, act, and reflect over a 3-day cycle. So I was able to, during the course of the program, when we did have our synchronous sessions, I got to speak with other district coaches, other district teachers, district leaders, superintendents, and then just kind of listen to things that they were implementing in their schools, and and then vice versa. They would listen to things that we were implementing, and really just kind of talking with each other, and then figuring out the best things to do for students and student learning in the realm of educational technology. Um, so I guess that's kind of what I mean. It wasn't necessarily tailored to you had to be a coach, you had to be a teacher, um, because we had a bunch of different individuals in this program that just gave their perspective with how they're able to do things within their school district.
So tell me when, we're here to talk about the film festival for mostly, and I want to know when that light bulb went off. How did that happen?
So it went off really right after that Apple Learning Coach program. We had an Apple Learning Specialist by the name of Lauren Lansford that worked with our district, and her and I we were talking in the summer, and brainstorming some things that we could do, and we came up with the idea. It's like, well, we're a 1-to-1 district, so every student K through 8 has an iPad, and 9 through 12 has a MacBook. Well, why don't we do some sort of filming festival um, to try to just get some student creativity out, and that's just kind of how the idea kind of popped up, and we're like, okay, this is kind of cool. So we started thinking of a framework for how we can roll it out, what our theme was going to be, how we can get community members. Um, so our theme for this year was Los Lunas Schools United. So we decided, well, that's pretty cool. Why don't we just make that our theme for the film festival? So um, we created that as a theme. They had certain criteria. It had to be less than 2 minutes. It had to be. They had to pick a genre. Whether it be documentary, stop motion, things like that. Um, and then we were able to get some members from the community to help score them. So students submitted them. Um, we had a representative from the museum came and joined us, and then a representative from the drive-in movie theater. And
That's so cool. So, was it like a local historical museum or a
Yes.
region? Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, you guys tell me, like, draw the line for me from Apple Learning Coach to showing the kids how to make videos. How did those things build to each other, I guess?
So we, throughout the course of the year with our digital learning coaches, we did a lot of co-teaching with the instructors or teachers throughout the district. Um, we implemented a lot of learning playgrounds, um, group studies, stuff like that. We actually had a representative from Apple come in and work with all of our coaches in the district. So we have coaches that are with our learning innovations department, and so we kind of trickled it that way. So it was, we took from Apple Learning Coach some of the ideas there, and then to our coaches, and then from our coaches to our teachers, and then teachers to students. So that was kind of the pipeline from Apple Learning Coach.
And so, at what point during that trickle down, that knowledge trickling process, at what point did the students find out about the film festival? Were they in the know from the beginning, or was that something that they started learning the technology and then the teacher said, guess what?
Yeah, exactly. So no, they did not know about it. We didn't introduce it until October. So during the first few months of school, that's when we were kind of doing the heavy lifting with showing, students how to utilize some of these features and features and things like that. So we kind of gave it a big reveal in October.
And how did that tell me about how that went down?
Oh, they're excited. The students were excited. Teachers were really excited because they didn't know either. So really, the only people that knew was our department and the district leaders. So once they heard, what was funny is we had originally made it so it was just going to be K through 8 because 9 through 12 they don't have iPad. But the high school had heard of it, and then they got excited about it too. So we were able to get some iPad carts to our local high schools so that the students that wanted to, partake in it, they could too. So we ended up going through K through 12. So there was a lot of energy um, behind it. I think that there's a lot of excitement. Um,
So, set the scene for me. When you guys did the reveal, was it like an assembly or was it there an announcement? And were there was there a banner, that sort of thing? Tell me about like how that felt to be there. I can't imagine how exciting that probably was as an educator and as a student.
so we ended up doing. So we're kind of a larger district. So we have 10 elementary schools. We have 2 middle schools and 3 high schools. The way that it was originally introduced was at an administrative meeting. We let the administrators know, so they knew before the teachers knew, and then we ended up just sending a mass email to all stakeholders for Los Lunas schools, so all staff.
Awesome. Tell me about the timeline of the film festival. The students were given a month, a couple of months. How did that work to put together their films? And then I see you had the genres from Apple's Everyone Can Create video guide. And so the students could choose the genre. And you had guest judges from the community. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so as long as they stuck with the theme, Los Lunas United, then they could pretty much do whatever kind of film they wanted. And you said it had to be limited to 2 minutes, is that right?
Correct.
And so how long did they have to work on them before the deadline to submit for the film festival? And what were their prizes, or were they all shown at a viewing, or how did that work?
So they were given 3 weeks to submit. The kind of the timeline from that is we had the submissions, and so prior to any other community members judging, we screened all the videos. just to make sure that they were within the rubric that we had. So we screened all of them. We brought our community members in, and then we judged it together. And so the winners, we actually partnered with, we have a local movie theater and we have a drive-in movie theater. The local movie theater, for all the winners, they showcased their short film before the movie Encanto that was coming out during that time, and they also allowed free admission for the winners, and then the two more guest passes. So whoever else they wanted to bring. So that was what the local movie theater did. So we had a big celebration there, announced the winners. We handed out candy, stuff like that. They were really excited. And then our drive-in movie theater, they had different movies that they were showing throughout the month of December. They agreed to do very similar. They would show those winners before the actual movie began.
So, what was the reaction from parents and the community?
Oh, they were awesome. They were very happy. Went in, we got the pictures with the winners and all the students in the front.
Approximately how many students participated and submitted films for this?
Approximately 50 to 60.
Wow, that's really great. What was the most surprising to you about how, I guess, the tangible results of the Apple Learning Coach program that started months before at a different level? And was it surprising to you, to see it transform into this and take off and be so popular, or did you know in your gut right when you had the idea that it was going to be a really effective way to get kids engaged in creating?
No, right when we were thinking about it, I thought, if we can get 5 students to submit something, that would be tremendous. We've never done anything like this before. We're just coming off of a year of remote learning. There's a lot of different priorities going on, and this was just something I was like, let's get it introduced, and then we can build on it. The results that we received, I was very impressed. I think that a lot of times people think, well, if it's not for a grade, they're not going to do it and things like that. But we had a bunch of submissions, and it wasn't a grade, and it was just based on student creativity, and they didn't even know what the prizes would be. They didn't know there would be a prize, so that was really exciting to see, and I really think that we built some momentum going into next year with this, because the word will go out. It's like, well, no, we got to go see our film at the movie theater, and then,
On the big screen. That's so neat.
so a lot of kids, they'll get excited, like, wait, you were able to do that, and so I'm excited to see, what this can continue to turn into.
That's incredible. Well, I sure appreciate your time. I am thankful, as I'm sure all of our listeners are, that you and your co-educators and technology experts are thinking outside the box and making learning fun and engaging for these kids.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today on THE Journal Insider Podcast. You can find links to resources and products discussed in this episode at thejournal.com, as well as lots of K-12 technology news, insights, grant opportunities, upcoming events, and much more. I'm Crystal Kirkendall, editor at THE Journal. You can stream our podcast episodes on our website or find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Deezer. We'd love to hear feedback and future episode suggestions from K-12 educators and IT practitioners alike. You can email me through our website or send us a tweet and follow us on Twitter at THE_journal is our username on Twitter. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, make today a great day.